You think your silence is weakness. You think that when you don't respond, when you don't defend yourself, when you don't explain, when you don't fight back, you are losing. You think the world sees your silence and reads it as defeat. But what if I told you that everything you believe about silence is exactly backwards? What if the most powerful move you will ever make in your life, in your career, in your relationships, in your own mind, is not what you say, but what you choose not to say? Stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you will never look at your silence the same way again. Welcome to the Shetty Mindset. Right now, in this moment, there is something happening in your life that is testing you. Someone said something they should not have said. Someone questioned your ability. Someone dismissed your vision. Someone pushed you, and every instinct in your body is screaming at you to respond, to explain, to defend, to prove them wrong out loud. And here is the truth that most people never discover. That urge, that desperate, burning need to be understood, to be validated, to be heard, is one of the most dangerous traps you will ever face. A study published by the University of Rochester found that individuals who practice what researchers call strategic restraint, the conscious choice to withhold reaction, scored significantly higher in measures of emotional intelligence, long-term goal achievement, and social influence than those who responded impulsively. In other words, the people who said less won more. This video is not about being passive. It is not about being a pushover. It is not about swallowing your truth. This is about something far more intentional, far more powerful, far more aligned with the person you are building yourself to become. In part 3 of this video, I am going to share with you the one moment, the single most critical moment, when your silence will do more damage to your enemies and more good for your future than any words ever could. Stay with me until the end. What I share there will completely change how you move through the world, the noise that is costing you everything. Most people are leaking. Every single day, you are leaking your energy, your power, your peace, through words that did not need to be spoken. Think about the last time someone doubted you. What did you do? You explained yourself. You justified your choices. You laid out your reasons, your evidence, your intentions, as if you were on trial and they were the judge. And even after all of that, even after you gave them everything, did they believe you? Probably not. And here is what nobody tells you about that moment. The moment you started explaining, you already lost. Because explanation is a form of permission seeking. And when you seek permission from people who were never qualified to give it to you, you hand them a power over your life that they have not earned. Neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman has discussed at length the concept of the brain's threat response. How, when we feel socially judged or dismissed, our amygdala fires the same alarm as a physical threat. Our body wants to fight. And for most people, that fight happens with words. But here is what the most intentional, most powerful people on earth have learned. Not every fire deserves your fuel. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change. But if you cannot show me that I am wrong, why would I change?" He was not interested in the noise. He was only interested in the truth. And most of what people say to you, most of what they throw at you, is noise. Think of a master sculptor. He does not argue with the stone. He does not justify his tools. He does not explain to the marble what he is trying to create. He simply works in silence. And in time, the masterpiece reveals itself. You are that sculptor. And your life is your work. So here is the question I want you to sit with right now. How much of your creative energy, how much of your focused, sacred, irreplaceable energy are you spending on people who were never going to understand you anyway? And if you have felt this, that exhaustion, that deflation after trying to explain yourself to someone who just didn't care, you were not wrong to feel it. That feeling was telling you something important. Your energy is too sacred to spend explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. Your energy is too sacred. Your energy is too sacred. Your energy is too sacred. But here is what nobody tells you about the people who seem to always get it wrong when it comes to silence. What you reveal, they will use. Here is a truth that will feel uncomfortable at first. But stay with me, because it is one of the most protective truths you will ever receive. Not everyone in your life is rooting for you. Some people ask questions not because they care about the answer, but because they are mapping your weaknesses. Some people invite you to vent not because they want to support you, but because they are collecting intelligence. Some people seem like allies, and they are taking notes. This is not paranoia. This is pattern recognition. A landmark study from Harvard Business School on social dynamics and workplace influence found that individuals who disclosed their goals, frustrations, and uncertainties too broadly were significantly more likely to face sabotage, both conscious and unconscious, from the people around them. When you tell people too much, you give them a roadmap to your vulnerabilities. When you announce your plans before they are complete, you invite interference before you have the momentum to resist it. When you argue your case to someone who is not on your side, you are handing them your playbook. The ancient samurai had a concept called mushin, a state of no mind, no reaction, pure presence without emotional noise. In combat, a samurai who could not be read was impossible to predict. And a samurai who could not be predicted could not be defeated. Your silence is your armor. Jay Shetty once said, "Protect your peace like it is the most valuable thing you own, because it is. And nothing destroys your peace faster than oversharing with underdeserving people." Think about it this way. A cheetah does not announce its hunt. It does not explain to the gazelle what it is about to do. It does not seek validation from the other animals on the plain. It waits. It watches. It moves only when the moment is aligned, and when it does move, it is already too late to stop it. Now ask yourself honestly, how many times have you announced something before it was ready, only to have the energy around it collapse? How many times have you shared a dream too early and watched it shrink under the weight of someone else's doubt? And if you have felt that particular grief of a dream deflated by the wrong audience, you were not wrong. That feeling was wisdom, not weakness. Protect what is growing. Water it in silence. Let it root before you expose it to the elements. Your vision deserves silence to grow. Your vision deserves silence to grow. Your vision deserves silence to grow. And this next part, this is the part that will shift everything for you, because I am not just talking about what silence protects you from. I am about to tell you what silence builds inside of you. The inner architecture of the silent mind. There is something that happens to a person who practices intentional silence over time. Something shifts. Not on the outside, not immediately, but inside. In the architecture of their mind, in the quality of their thoughts, in the weight of their presence when they walk into a room. They become something that most people spend their whole lives chasing and never quite reaching. They become grounded. Stanford University researchers studying mindfulness and neural plasticity found that individuals who regularly practiced periods of intentional silence, even as little as 2 minutes of deliberate quiet per day, showed measurable increases in prefrontal cortex activity. That is the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning, emotional regulation, and complex decision-making. In other words, silence literally makes you smarter, more focused, more aligned. But it goes deeper than neuroscience. The Buddhist tradition has a concept called noble silence. And it is not about suppressing yourself. It is about choosing, with complete intentionality, to be present without output, to receive without broadcasting, to observe without reacting. The Buddha said, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." One word that brings peace. How many thousands of hollow words have you spoken in your life? Out of nervousness, out of the need to fill space, out of the fear that silence would make you look weak. When one calm, certain, intentional word would have carried 10 times the weight. Here is the real-world truth about this. Think of the most powerful person you have ever been in a room with. Not the loudest. The most powerful. What do you remember about them? Chances are it was not what they said. It was how they carried themselves when they were not saying anything. It was their stillness, their patience, the sense that they were not threatened by the silence, that the silence belonged to them. That is the inner architecture I am talking about. The person who does not need to fill every silence is telling everyone in the room, I am not afraid. The person who does not respond to every provocation is saying, you do not have that kind of access to me. The person who does not explain every decision is declaring, my certainty does not require your approval. And this is the most important insight in this entire video. Your silence is not the absence of power. Your silence is the 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 power. Stay with me, because what comes next is where most people make the biggest mistake of their lives, and I do not want that to be you. When they want you to react, don't. There will be people in your life who are deeply, fundamentally uncomfortable with your silence. And I need you to understand why. Because once you understand their discomfort, you will never again be moved by it. When you stop explaining yourself, some people feel threatened. When you stop defending yourself, some people get louder. When you stop arguing back, some people escalate. And it can feel, in those moments, like your silence is creating the problem. It is not. Your silence is revealing the problem that was already there. Psychologists call this phenomenon reactive provocation, when someone deliberately increases the intensity of their behavior in order to trigger a response from a person who has become emotionally unreadable. The provocation is not about what they say it is about. It is about regaining control over someone they can no longer predict. Because here is what your silence does to someone who thrives on your reactions. It removes their power source. Imagine plugging a machine into a wall and nothing happens. The machine cannot run without electricity. The machine becomes useless. Your reaction is their electricity. And when you withhold it, when you stay calm, stay still, stay focused, they have nothing to work with. Epictetus wrote, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. What is in your power is your response, or the choice not to respond. Think of water. Water does not fight the rock. Water does not argue with the stone. Water does not explain itself to the riverbank. Water simply moves, always finding its path, always carving its way, always arriving where it was meant to go. And over time, over beautiful, patient, unstoppable time, water shapes the rock, not with force, with persistence, with flow. With silence. When someone is trying to provoke you, they are handing you a test. And the passing grade is not the best comeback. The passing grade is the absence of one. Ask yourself right now, is there someone in your life right now who seems unsettled by your calm? Who pushes harder when you do not push back? Who gets louder when you stay quiet? That discomfort you feel in those moments, that pressure to respond, to defend, to match their energy, is the test. And you have the power to pass it. And if you have faced that moment where everything in you wanted to explode but something deeper told you to be still, you were not suppressing yourself. You were mastering yourself. There is a difference. And the difference is everything. Your composure is your crown. Your composure is your crown. Your composure is your crown. But here is what nobody tells you about what happens on the other side of that choice. Because silence does not just protect you, it transforms you. And I want you to see exactly how. The life that silence is building for you. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you are making a deposit, not into someone else's account, into yours. Every moment you hold your tongue when you could have argued, that is a deposit. Every time you withhold your plans from people who would diminish them, that is a deposit. Every time you choose to let your work speak instead of your words, that is a deposit, and deposits compound. A study from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School on long-term personal influence found that the individuals rated as most trustworthy and authoritative in professional environments were consistently those who spoke less, listened more, and only contributed when they had something of genuine substance to add, not the loudest voices, the most intentional ones. There is something sacred that happens when you stop spending your energy on noise and start investing it in movement. Your creativity expands. Your focus sharpens. Your relationships deepen because you are bringing your whole self to them instead of pieces left over after conflict. Your vision for your life becomes clearer because you are no longer clouding it with the static of unnecessary engagement. The Stoics had a term, amor fati,